Hello, hello. Welcome to the Diversity is Lit Book Club. We are happy to be here. Every month, we read a book by a BIPOC author and discuss it on a live stream like we are doing today. And we just started doing this, and I'm really excited because I think it'll kind of help guide our choices. We just started to do like themed months, which we were kind of doing a little bit like with like October being a spooky theme and NaNoWriMo having like something shorter. But for June, it was Pride Month. And so our Pride Month pick was the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School by Sonora Reyes. Yay! Oh, I love all the markups that Vanessa has. And we will be chatting all things spoilers. So if you are okay with spoilers, then you can keep watching. If you haven't read the book yet and you are interested and don't want to be spoiled, then read the book and then come back and watch the live stream and chat with us. But I'll have my co-hosts introduce themselves in a minute. But Heather, one of our other co-hosts, is here. Hi, Heather. Clap, clap, clap. I love it. She's in the comments. Heather, if you want to give a quick explanation why you had to be lurking. But it has to do with the Arizona heat, so and making the cash money flow.
Hey, make that money.
Yeah, and our voices are a little bit strained today. So if we are lacking a little bit of energy, that doesn't reflect this wonderful book. Spoiler. But if you don't know me, my name is Holly. I'm a kidlit writer working on a YA fantasy. And I am the host, and I'm hopefully going to be querying soon, which is really exciting. And I'm just very happy to be here as always and discussing this book. Vanessa, do you want to go?
Yeah, hi, I'm Vanessa. I go by Vanessa Marie Books on all my online platforms. I am a YA fantasy, paranormal, and horror writer. And I'm excited to be here.
Yay.
So I'm a writer, Alicia Grumley, online, and that is actually my name too, is Alicia Grumley. And I am a poet. I am a YA fantasy twisted fairy tale writer. I've been editing that a little bit for Camp NaNoWriMo. That's what I've been working on. And I also am a little low voiced today, so please excuse any crackly popping that you hear. And I'm very excited to be here to talk about this book. It was great, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you ladies.
Yay. So whether you're here or watching the replay, let us know a little bit about you. And then also, as we go through the questions and just kind of chatting about the book, feel free to put in your comments as well, as Heather will be doing. And so, yeah, no worries, Heather. Don't have to say sorry. You don't have to apologize at all. I remember when my voice was like completely shot and I actually hopped into the comments. But Heather's in between work shifts, would have had to call from her car, but it's over 110 degrees out, so she wouldn't have had a quiet place to join in. So completely understandable. I'm like, you shouldn't have your car running with the AC blasting for an hour.
Yeah.
And she said her phone was being wonky like 5 minutes without the AC. So yeah, so happy you're in a safe, cool place. So before we get started, I will read the content warnings. I don't know if is it like unfortunately with everything that's been happening, I'm like, I haven't been wanting to call it trigger warnings. So content warnings for the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School is outing, deportation, racism, lesbophobia, homophobic slurs, mentions of suicidal thoughts, character hospitalization, disownment, and implied homophobic violence. So lots of things to unpack here. Clearly will be a good read. And this came out May 17th. So I'm really glad that like some of our picks have been like just really, really recent things.
Yeah.
Oh, and then before I go any further, I do want to say that you guys should mark your calendars because Diversity is Lit is 2 years old. Yay!
Oh.
So we will be having an anniversary party, kind of celebrating being live for 2 years, which is really exciting. And our anniversary live stream is going to be on Sunday, July 24th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, and we're hoping to keep it about an hour. But please join us for that because we will have a lot of fun games, some giveaways. It's going to be great.
Yes.
So, yes. Yay, happy almost 2 years. Technically, it is 2 years because July was the start. We're just late celebrating.
That's all right. We are busy people. We are just so busy.
Yeah, we are. We had, I know like last year, actually, our 1 year anniversary was on July 4th, that like Monday that we had off. But I was like, no, people are busy. They got plans. I don't want to have them work around it. And so I was like, let's do it another weekend. So it worked out for today. So our first question is, what is your general overall thoughts on the book? And sometimes I go first. Sometimes I don't. This time I'm going to let other people talk first.
You want to go first, Vanessa?
Well, I was going to let you go first.
Oh, that's fine. I suspect we're not going to be as diametrically opposed as we sometimes are on this book.
Sorry, I forgot to mention 2 things. All of my lovely co-hosts are linked down below. Please follow them because they're wonderful. But also our other co-host, Teresa, isn't here. I forgot to mention that. I hope she's okay, but she might pop in later or in the comments. But if not, then just wanted to make note that Teresa is one of our co-hosts as well, who's not here.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for mentioning that. I suspect we're not going to be as diametrically opposed as we sometimes are with our choices. It's kind of a running joke if you're new to the channel or if you're new to watching our conversations that Vanessa and I are almost like, I wouldn't say always, but like more often than not, maybe like 85-90% of the time, we're kind of like opposite. If she really likes something, I don't always really like it. If I really like something, she doesn't really like it. So, but we have had a few books where we're like in pretty good agreement. And I think this is one of them. So I enjoyed it. I liked it. I was nervous because I am Catholic and I did go to Catholic schools, but it ended up, I thought, being treated in a very respectful way. And I think it was important and accurate how the characters were portrayed and some of the things that happened and, you know, some of the experiences I know from friends of my own that I have. So yeah, but I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot.
Nice. And what did you rate it?
It was probably about a 4. I think it was, 4.
Nice.
Solid 4.
Well, for me, if anyone has been to my channel and seen some of the books I've reviewed and talked about, you probably know I'm not much of a contemporary reader. I much prefer fantasy, but there are some contemporary books that I can't help but fall in love with, and this one was definitely one of them. As Holly mentioned, I have a ton of markups in my book. This is, I wasn't expecting it to be, but it became a favorite of mine for this year. And it's still 5 stars. And I really like the characters. Just from the very beginning, I know Holly, at the end of our last discussion, you kind of brought up the titles of the and you read the first title, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. And it was. You know, the characters, Yami, her brothers, I think, you know, they have Yami has a really strong voice in here, which I really like. And I like seeing her dynamic with her brother and both of her parents and seeing what that was like. And I also related to quite a bit in this as well. I related to quite a bit of Yami's character and her interactions with their parents. And also a bit with her brother as well. So I'll talk more about that when we get into certain things. But
Great.
yeah, I loved it.
Great.
Yay. Heather said, I really enjoyed it. Ended up reading the physical book, but Yamilet's voice still came into my head very clearly. Yes. And she gave it 4.5 stars.
I read the physical book as well.
Thank you, Clay. That's sweet of you. So is Yamilet.
Oh, you did the hoops. Yes, that's great.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I didn't dress up today. I normally do, but I love the cover art. I just think it's so beautiful. Like
me too.
I feel like the cover artist did a great job.
Yeah, so I am in a similar vein where I also loved it. Same as Vanessa, one of my favorite books of the year. And I feel like I've been reading a lot of really good books that I'm like, oh my gosh, this one's a top 5. And then like the next book, I'm like, oh, this one's a top 5. So I'm like, I'm going to have a lot of really, really good books on my like top list. It's a really good reading year. And I was just really grateful for this book. And to be honest, like this book kind of scared me because like, I mean, this cover is just so, sorry, the light, this cover is just so strong. And then reading that first title, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if it was going to if I wasn't going to be able to relate to anything in the book. And I didn't know if like Yamilet's character was going to be too strong, that it would be off-putting, because there's sometimes where like there's a lot of swearing or something and I'm like, well, that fits for that character. But then there's other times I'm like, okay, this is a gimmick and it like pulls me out. But no, I loved it. Like Heather said, her voice came very clear. Like I bought the book and I was planning on reading it, but then I saw the audiobook was on Scribd and I was like, you know what? I feel like this is like, I just need to consume this really quickly. So I just devoured it. So this is probably one that I'm going to reread and actually read the physical book as well, because I just loved it. But me too. I really love the dynamics of Yamilet and Bo, and then Yamilet and her parents, and Yamilet and Caesar. And like probably one of my favorite things that was that I wasn't expecting was like that Sonora turned the like fake dating trope on its head, where it was like, oh my gosh, Yamilet has to pretend to date her brother's boyfriend, and so it's just like, and he's gay or he's bi, and so it just like went so much further than I thought it was going to, more than just like Yamilet and Bo and like the parents. Like she made it so rich in the conflict, and that drew me in because there were so many subplots and so many relationships that had to be worked on, and so I just was like enamored with it. So definitely a 5.
Everything felt realistic. All those like subplots, all those relationships, and even in their complexities, and I think because of their complexities, felt really realistic to me.
Yes, very much so. Okay, let me remove the bot. Cool. All right. Let's see what Heather says.
I think there's another one from the bot, Holly.
Yeah, well, this person, I don't. Clay is okay right now, but trash bag, I deleted them, so they should be gone. Yeah. Sorry about that. No negativity in our space, like GTFO.
Yeah. Keep the book related or don't be here.
Yes, I wasn't expecting the fake dating part. It was great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Heb. What were you gonna say, Leash?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I saw Vanessa go, "What?" when I mentioned that part. So,
Now I forget which part were we talking about.
the
The fake dating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. Fun to like, and like how she like actually got to use it to meet and like get to know. Is it Jamil? What's Caesar's brother's name? Or, not brother, boyfriend.
I think it's
Jamil.
Yeah, I think
but like I liked when they went on like their fake date and they got to, you know, she actually got to get to know him and like learn about him, and you know, like I thought that was cool.
Jamal, yeah.
Jamal, yes.
Heather. Thanks, Heb. Yeah, that part like just made everything so like it made the stakes higher because it's like Yamilet was trying to keep keep her sexuality a secret from her parents, from her school, and she was keeping it from her brother for such a long time too, until he actually ended up coming out first. And like she could have gotten in so much trouble, which we see later on down the line, by like pretending to fake date Jamal, and like it made it so much more complicated because she's like, okay, well now I have to pretend to be straight, and then when Jamal is there, and it's like it's just so awkward. So I mean, I think that was fun to read too, some of the awkward situations, like, oh, he's cute, you know, and then like at the end, the mom was like, oh, I thought there was something off about him, and it's like, yeah, right, girl, like.
Or like when Hunter's trying to flirt with her and she's like, this is my boy, not boyfriend, like not yet, I don't know. So funny.
I thought that was actually a really good twist that I wasn't expecting when she catches her brother kissing Jamal and he comes out to her. Because I was not expecting for both of them to be queer. And when we get to that scene, I was like, and then when he said he's bi, I was like, yay, a bi character. Because we don't see too many bi characters. So I was excited about that.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise because we went into it, I think, well, for me, it was a nice surprise for me because I went into it expecting, okay, this to be the main character's journey of, you know, being a lesbian and figuring that out and, you know, all of that. So it was a very nice addition that it was like, yeah, this is, and it eats at that, or it takes away that like stigma of bi erasure, you know, like it's like Caesar's a fully well-developed character. He's not flat. He has his own arc, you know, all of that stuff. So I really thought that part was done really well, in particular, in relation to his character. And I agree, Vanessa, that it was nice to see the bi character.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting though, that like, you know, they had their rifts, but overall I feel like they were both close as siblings, and yet they didn't know that piece of each other.
Right.
And it took just like finding out for them to open up about it. So,
but it was nice. Like, I feel like it was also led up to well because their catchphrase with each other is, you are my other me. Like we have to say, you are my other me, you know, and Heather and Holly, I'm sure you guys can talk to that a little bit. You know, that feeling of, even though they aren't twins, that feeling of super closeness. And, you know, so I felt like it kind of made sense in a way, but in an authentic way. It wasn't a, you know, like any sort of like plot device or anything, which I think is one of the reasons it's so important to read the books that we read for our club, you know, that it's, you know, we're seeing the things that are important, and representation always matters. It always, always, always matters. So
yeah. And I think that for Yamilet to have the strength to like eventually come out, like, yes, like Bo helped her with her journey, but I think she needed Caesar there as well, to realize that, because I know we're not like getting into quotes, but like they had said like, we can be in this together, it's not just me anymore. And you know, that like just felt like such a sweet moment, because it's like they're in it together, and they like, that gave her the strength to still like be in the closet until she was ready, and she didn't have to have like a oops, it was found out, you know.
Right.
So,
and I'm glad Caesar was the first person in the family that she told. Like, it should not have been anyone else, you know what I mean? Like, even though, well, yeah, right. And then she told her dad later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it should never have been anyone besides him, like in her family. And in a way, I feel like that was the most important one to her, even though she thought it was going to be telling her family. Just like telling after, especially after he came out as bi to her, then for her, like, because didn't she like whisper it at first? And he was like, what? And then, okay.
yes.
Isn't that how that came about?
Gosh.
So that was funny for like her to voice that to the first person, like, who she wanted things to go differently with. Is it Bianca? Yeah. She wanted things to go differently with Bianca, but it would have been more hurtful if Caesar hadn't accepted her. Because that's her person, you know, like that's her person. So
I was actually going to say, to touch on that, you can see how Bianca's reaction, just how much that had affected and traumatized her, because even with Caesar, even with him coming out and finding out he's bi, she still had that hesitation and that fear of telling him she was gay, even though he had a boyfriend. So I think Bianca, you know, even though we didn't see their relationship before this point of starting the book, but we got to know about that incident. And I think, you know, having that really shows how much her reaction to the first person. I think Bianca was the first person she ever came out to, and how that reaction just completely made her withdraw and like not want to be out to anyone else. Even to the point where she's trying to work for her mom's business and save up money, so if it ever comes out to her mom that she's gay, she's prepared to have to leave and have to move out, which I thought is sad. And that kids have to go through that, but it's also a reality of what some of them face.
Yeah.
Especially, and I can speak to this because this is my culture that I grew up in, especially in a Catholic culture. That is a very, unfortunately, common response that I hear about. And like, it's a very specific fear that a lot of members of the LGBTQ community who also are Catholic or are raised Catholic deal with and fear. So I think that part was done exceptionally well as well. Like, I remember I have a friend that did not come out to his parents until well after he was out of college, like 10 years. because he was afraid of exactly this kind of thing, or like of losing their financial support and, you know, all of that. And it's scary. You know, it's so scary. Thankfully, that was not a concern that we needed to be worried about with his family. And we're so thankful that that's the case. But I know that's not the case for everyone. And it's hard, you know, and I can only imagine feeling like you're hiding a part of yourself and needing to stay in the closet because you need a roof over your head, because you need food. And, you know, she talks about it. Yami talks about it several points. Like, it's going to be tight, but at least we'll be able to live there. And she was always going to take Cesar with her, you know, and like, I like that too, that it was always like, I'm protecting him just like I always do. Like, of course, he's coming with me. Like, it's going to be, we're both going to be safe and it's going to be okay. And I like that.
Oh, I love that. I'm cycling back because in my bot chasing, I missed some of Heather's comments. So I apologize, Heather. I wasn't trying to ignore you. I appreciate you answering too. So it kind of goes into that, what Alicia was saying. I wasn't expecting her to be as vulnerable as she was and more sensitive. I thought she was going to be a more hard butch character. And that totally makes sense. And then her insecurities, I enjoyed her insecurities because it made it more realistic. Yeah, like you could still see her heart. And I really loved that. Like, just right away at the beginning, it's like, oh yeah, let's set up this Instagram shop and I was like, this would totally happen. Like, the younger girls like try to set up this Instagram shop for her mom, and I'm like, and then the mom's like, no, and I'm like, this is just like, it just seems so realistic. So
right. One of the things, and this is a little bit quotey, so if it's too early for that, I can circle back to it later. But
you're fine. Let's just we're doing whatever we want. Just all
right. So one of the quotes that talks about like her more presenting side that I really like is it's on page 26. And it is the last full paragraph. I have my own way of facing my fears, sharpening my winged eyeliner. A perfect wing makes looking at myself more bearable. And if I get it just right, it'll make me less nervous about today. My hand trembles a little and I have to clean off the first line. But like, I love that. Like, ooh, it's because I think of red lipstick as armor sometimes. Like, if I have something I don't want to do or don't, you know, like, feel as confident about, like, red lipstick's armor for me. And I know makeup can be armor for a lot of us, right? And
well,
for anybody presented.
Yeah, I don't wear like bold lipstick and stuff. Like, my makeup is like maybe a little bit of like eyeliner and some like foundation to cover up all my blemishes, and like that's pretty much it. But for like 4th of July weekend, I like rocked this like bold red lip that I was just like, well, it's the red, white, and blue, let's just go for it. And I was like, I feel like badass. Like, wow, like all I did was wear this and I just feel like glam. And so this makes a lot of sense. But
so I really like that concept of makeup as, you know, giving us a little bit of an extra oomph, or giving, you know, extra armor, or, you know, sharpening her weapons as her, you know, I like that.
Yes. It's we know you have your poem about like, you know, weapons and armor and stuff, so it kind of reminds me of that.
And I have one
analogy.
I have one too where a red dress is a weapon.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so that's like a fun one. Like, yeah, like it's like something like the like mic drop moment, you know, that I'm kind of infamous for among our groups of contemporary friends and everything, is something like, fashion has always been a weapon, or maybe that's how it starts, and like at least it is tonight. And like,
yes, get it.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, that is a theme I enjoy, kind of across
I just like read the next line after that paragraph, and then I'm like, and then this shows like another reason why I like this book is like the humor, because Yamilet's like, this will be fine. I have a foolproof game plan. Number 1, find a new best friend. Number 2, don't be gay about it.
I love that. I sent that to another one of my friends in the community because she says things like that to me all the time. She's like, okay, like, and then like
I'm not trying to be gay about it.
when they're talking about it later and they're both like, we were just both in a gay panic, like that feels very authentic to me from friends who have said things like that in the community. And I love that. And don't be gay about it.
So, looks like Heather has another one too. It broke my heart when she said, I know straight Yami is lovable. My mom loves me a lot, but it feels conditional. Like if I'm not exactly who she needs me to be, then I'm unlovable. Maybe she doesn't actually love me, but the person she thinks I am. I just wanted to hug her and tell her to be herself. Oh, that's what Heather's saying. I just wanted to hug her and tell her to be herself. Oh.
Yeah.
And then she says, love that. Love that journey for you.
Kind of jumping on to what Heather was saying, I wanted to talk about her parents a bit and just her relationship with their parents. And so, because like I said, that was a part I related to a lot of it. So her dad, even though he was in another country, they always talked and FaceTimed, and like they were super, super close. And she was actually closer to her dad, who was not living in the house with her day to day, than she was to her mom. And she had that fear of coming out to her mom. And then she ends up accidentally drunk coming out to her dad. And just the shift after that point, where after she comes out to her dad, he just goes radio silent and she doesn't hear from him for a long time. And she is just racking her brain with like, what's going on? And did something happen? Or like maybe, just seeing how that relationship turned, and she got distant from her dad the moment that happened. And then with her mom, when her mom finally realized she was gay, when she came out to her as well, she was probably expecting that same reaction, but it was completely the opposite. The mom, I loved towards the end how she was like all, gay pride and like buying all the rainbow stuff and everything. And
Yes.
I'm like, calm down, Mom.
I love it. Yeah, that broke my heart when the dad was like just radio silence, like you said. I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
and just like the way, it's weird because like, so her relationship with both of her parents flipped after she came out. And so she was closer to her mom and more distant to her dad, which that's this kind of the same that happened with me. So when I came out to my parents, I've always been super close to my mom, not so close at all to my dad. But then when I came out to them, my mom was the one that took a while to come to terms with it. And so our relationship became distant. And then my dad was the one who was cool with it. And surprisingly, though, I think what helped in my dad's case, because he told me when we finally talked about it, he told me, I kind of suspected since you were in college that I was like, really?
You're like, I didn't even know. Thanks, Dad.
So, so I guess he had a lot more time to come to terms with it. So he So yeah, I saw with Yami's relationship with their parents, I saw the same thing with mine where it flipped and now starting to get a little closer to my dad and distant from my mom. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I had the brief, like, just kind of like, it's one of those thoughts, that sometimes fly through my head as I'm like reading like those predictions that I can't even quite catch on to. But I was like, oh, it'd be cool if her mom was so cool about it at the end. Or like, I thought like, or like, it'd be cool if her mom was cool. And it was almost like, I wonder if their reactions are going to be like what they ended up being. But it was like so fast that I didn't like even write it down in my notes, but I just remember having this like vague impression of like, oh, it'd be good if her mom was cool. Because like I want her to be, and
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Heather said she didn't what Alicia?
Oh, I was just telling Vanessa, I'm glad that her dad was there and supportive, and it sounds like made some good progress in relationship with your mom. So I hope that continues to be good and healthy for you, and that any boundaries that you need to maintain, you're able to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, Vanessa. And Heather said there was a lot of unexpected things for me in this book, clearly. And I think that I appreciated that in this book is that we got to see both sides. One family where there was the strained relationship, and then Bo's family that was like, yeah, woo, like just like bringing it in, taking Yami in while Caesar and her mom were visiting her dad, and which was like what, like a week or something like that, and so that was
and that Christmas
was good to show. Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, was that Christmas time? Yeah. So you got to kind of see both sides of what can happen. And I've heard this with like some of my patients and stuff, and I feel like it's a thing. Like they're like, yeah, like the kid, like the one patient I have has like 3 sons, and they're all like older now and stuff, and have like kids, but she's like, the son that you think is the kid you think is going to be there for you, it's actually the other one, like the one who was nice and good, and it ends up being the one who was a troublemaker for you all those years, that is driving you around to your doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So I wonder if that's kind of like that in some scenarios too, but reverse. So just, you never know who's going to be there for you. So yeah, not like closing doors and So Heather said, I love the other layers Sonora puts into the book too. Sorry, I can't talk. Put into the book too, like Bo's conflict with the Chinese stuff in her parents, Bo's presentation about legalizing abortion, Jenna calling the hoop earrings ghetto. So much to unpack. Yes.
The microaggression.
Let's go into some of these discussions here that Heather is unpacking. Yes.
Yeah. I know.
What were you saying, Alicia?
Oh, the microaggressions, the way that Sonora put the microaggressions on the page were just like I was keeping track of them for a while, and then I'm like, this is ridiculous, because I might as well just assume that every time this character's on the page, there's going to be a microaggression, and I wasn't wrong. But it was, but it's a good sign of growth that I feel like for me, because I wouldn't have maybe noticed that a few years back, which I know is a point of my privilege. So I'm glad to see that I had these like visceral reactions of like, you can't say that to someone, or like, not even that I was saying something like that. Hopefully I don't remember every interaction I ever had, but like the fact that I now am like advocating like, no, wait a minute, like that is a microaggression. We can't just say things like that and let that be okay. And like, if the people with the privilege in the room don't speak up about that kind of thing, the microaggressions continue to flourish, and that's not what I want for anything, and like, I don't ever want to be a part of, like, I don't ever want to be complacent enough that I allow microaggressions to flourish in my presence. So it was a good exercise in a challenging way, but also pointed to a sign of growth of like, yeah, like I care about people and I care about the way words matter, like I always have. And this is something that even if someone doesn't mean bad or mean to be racist or mean to come across as, problematic, like intent doesn't erase effect, and that's important. That's important. And as someone who has the privileges that I have, I take that responsibility seriously to call out those microaggressions, like when I see them and when I notice them, or like most of the people I surround myself with anymore don't have those microaggressions in their everyday life because I don't want that. I don't want to be surrounded by people who are intentionally or unintentionally, which I mean, it almost has to be unintentionally microaggression. But anyway, like it was interesting to think about, like, and I think some of that has come from being part of the book club for the past couple of years. And, just I try to have my perspective opened up, and I was glad. This sounds weird. I was glad to see them on the page because I was glad to have the opportunity to recognize them, not because I was glad that they exist by any means, or the fact that they feel so realistic, but I was glad to see them on the page represented because it gave more authentic feel to Yami and to Caesar. And, like when they're like chasing after Caesar, like when the boys from the other school are chasing after Caesar, and, just like so much realistic stuff. Yeah. I'm kind of like you, Vanessa. I didn't realize. So I didn't read a lot of contemporary stuff before, but I am finding out about myself that I really like contemporary, and I'm surprised by that. Like, I was like, oh, like it's interesting to me how much I'm liking contemporary stuff.
Well, for me, this is the type of contemporary that I would like. And I've talked about it once before on my channel. Like, if I'm going to do a contemporary, it's got to be one that deals with real issues and that is serious. I don't do the fluffy romance contemporary.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
I like it all. Give me my
give me a book.
When Dimple Met Rishi and There's Something About Sweetie. But yeah, like but I mean those had real things in it too with BIPOC characters. So but yeah, I think the important thing with having like these microaggressions is in there is that people can learn from it, because sometimes there's like people can be offensive and maybe not realize it. Like the student that was like, oh, I like your accent, where are you from? And you hear that everywhere. People are like, where are you from? And like, however many years ago, that was kind of a common thing. And now it's like, you don't say that. Like we've learned that that's not okay.
Right.
But yeah, so it's just something that I think is a tool to help people learn from. And it's again, but then it's not necessarily like, it's not Sonora Reyes and the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic Schools, like, duty to teach people how to not be racist and, homophobic and stuff, but it's presenting it in such a real way that we're learning from it. And yeah, so I think there's like a balance between with it too.
Well, she gave. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, going off of what Holly, you were saying about that part, which I bookmarked as well, where she's asked how or where she's from. I love her response to that, where she's like, Rover, it's a public school. You probably never heard of it. It's kind of far. No, I mean, like, I like your accent. Where are you from? She squints and cranes her neck. Emily's face goes red. Oh, Phoenix. I force a smile. I don't want to give her the satisfaction of telling her what she really wants to know. Who does that? And I love that. Yes, just Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yes, snap, snap, snap.
And I like that Sonora gave us a character who was hanging out with people perpetrating microaggressions, right? Emily, right? Who was hanging out with, is it Karen and Jenna?
Yeah.
Yes, right. And we see her at the end be like, I'm not really friends with them anymore. Can I please sit with you? And I like that too, because that gives people like the indication of like saying like this is wrong. And Emily was always the one that was kind of like, you can't say that, and then like, but that realization, especially for high school kids, of like, you are who you hang out with. So if somebody's saying something and they're consistently saying something that is disrespectful, is unkind, is not who you want to be, knowing that you can just say like, I'm not really friends with them anymore. I don't want to be associated with them. I thought that was a really important, even though it was such a minor point, but it was an important one, that she did make the choice to say like, I don't like that. I don't like that. And I'm not going to do that. That's not who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And so she came and, hung out with the rest of the group with Bo and Yami and, and that was good. And it was good. And it's good to see that. And it's good to see that reminder that like, you're not a tree. You're not stable. You can move. Like, move somewhere else.
I was also going to say, kind of going back to one of the things Heather brought up before about the hoop earrings, that scene where I forget who it was, Jenna or Karen, and how they were saying she looked so ghetto because of the earrings and everything. I really like that, Yami just, after that point, just didn't want anything to do with them anymore and just like, I'm going to go find someone else to hang out with, be friends with someone else. Because I feel like that was a good, not turning point, but that was a good point in the story where you could see, because she's trying so hard to act straight, and she is like trying so hard to not have anyone be suspicious of her. She could have easily been like, okay, I'm gonna let this go. I need to be friends with the popular girls or whatever, so that she can be accepted and be not feared or anything. But I like that that's not what happened. And she was just like, I deserve better than this. And I'm not going to hang out with these type of people. And if it meant hanging out with Bo and her friends, and even with the fact that Bo's friends even told her, hey, you're hanging out with us now. People are going to say stuff and they're going to think you're gay too. And she still did it anyway. And she was like,
Yeah, she was good with like, trying to protect her boundaries by like being like, okay, well, I'm just not going to be friends with them anymore. Just like with, oh shoot, I'm drawing the blank on. Yes, thank you. With Bianca, like, oh hey, like, how's it going, or what, and then she's like, no, I'm not going to respond to this text. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't just come back like this and try to come back into my life after everything you did. Like, so is that what you were going to say, Alicia?
One of the things, like it's connected to both of these points. It's I really like how Sonora doesn't force Yami to forgive any of these wrongs, any of these people who have crossed her boundaries. Not her dad, not Bianca, not, Karen and Jenna, like none of them. And that is so important, like to say you can be true to yourself and you respect yourself enough to say this isn't working for me. And I really liked, because I was like, oh man, are we going to be like forced to see these like happy little makeup, like, and I still wonder like if she's going to write more in this world, if we're going to see a Bianca journey to coming out, because I just have a suspicion that she is actually T.
T here?
T.
Oh.
Teresa.
Hey,
Hi.
I don't know if she can hear us.
I don't know either.
I think she's frozen.
I think so. Hopefully she'll pop in if she can. Teresa, if you can pop in, maybe sign back in, sign back out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really glad we didn't see anybody like any ingenuine like forgiveness, you know, and like her mom even was like, no, like I can't love someone who doesn't love my children. And, you know, like just like having those really healthy boundary lines drawn was like, you know, I'm the queen of boundary support, right? Like, yes, draw your boundary lines and I'll protect them for you if you need me to.
Yeah.
It's true.
I agree with that because I really do want to see, especially with her dad's relationship, how it goes and if he ever starts to come around and starts to accept her. I would want to see how that goes because that was one thing I was thinking about. But yeah, I'm glad she had her boundaries. And even like you said with Bianca, I think towards the end was trying to come around and talk to her again. And she was just like, no, I'm not having this. Like, leave me alone. So I like that she had those boundaries. Which, speaking of, so, you know, she does all this, she does have good boundaries that help protect her mental health. And so on that topic, I wanted to kind of talk about her brother who does have mental health issues. And I wanted to hear what you have to say on that, Alicia, since I know you're a huge advocate for that.
Yes. So Vanessa was a little ahead of where I was in the reading, and she popped into our group chat and said, hey guys, I think one of the characters is going to have a suicide attempt, right? So this is one of our content warnings. We're calling, like, this is officially content warning conversation. And as soon as I read that message from you, I thought, I bet it's Caesar. And I was on about probably like page 110 at that point when I got your message. And then I have a comment somewhere on page like 143, and I don't even know what it was in relation to, but it was like 143. I have a note that said like something about the way he's reacting here makes me almost positive that it's going to be him. And even from page 6, I have this note. I hope we see Caesar come to acceptance. Like I had this feeling that he was not accepting because he really grappled more with his space in the Catholic religion and being bisexual than we see Yami grappling with. And so I was really glad that we see a character, once again, not glad that it happened, glad for the representation, that we see a character who is hospitalized for safety, you know, for their own safety, willing to go. And, but even seeing some of the microaggressions on that scene of how they were like, you're either going to go or you're going to go the hard way. Like, you know, like you can go willingly or you can go the hard way. And like, he wasn't even doing anything. He was just laying there. Right. And so I was picking up on some of the things that he was not as settled in himself, and thought that it was well done and well represented. And I think that scene where she's visiting him, where Yami's visiting him in the hospital, and they talk, or in the rehab facility, not in the hospital, but in the rehab facility, and they talk about how like the priest was the impetus, you know, like the real turning point. Like things weren't going great before that, but they were really not going great as of that point. And she was like, oh, like I was hearing the exact same thing and we both got totally different messages. And that is important too. And I thought that they did a good job supporting him. And I really like seeing how her mom reacted to that too, because that was the point where her mom, was really like, I could have just lost my child. I could have just lost my baby boy. And, Yami always felt that sense that her mom favored him. And so for her to like literally apologize to Yami on screen is so important, and is important to mental health too, I think. And I thought it was all very well done in terms of the representation, in terms of the just like all the things we've said about everything in this book so far, of like the reality of the situation. Like, I don't feel like that's out of reach for anyone to have, or anyone in the community who struggles with mental health to have experienced, these thoughts, attempts, all those things. And, when Caesar kind of explodes at Yami, like, what the heck? Like, like their fight before Christmas, and like, just leave me alone. And, all of that stuff. It's so indicative too of how people are wrapped up in their own problems more often than we realize. Right? Because Yami took it as like, oh my gosh, she's mad at me. What did I even do? I don't even understand. All I've ever done is protect you. And he was struggling so much, but he was lashing out because he couldn't express that he was struggling. And so I thought it was important to see, because it makes us realize that we're not alone. Like, anytime you can see mental health, not that you want to see mental health struggles, but anytime that you can see that and see it be handled to give you a frame of reference, I think is important. And Vanessa, I know you have a pretty extensive psych background, right?
Yeah.
So how did you feel about the representation of the mental health stuff on the page?
I thought it was really well done. But again, that was one aspect that I related to his character on a personal level, because that scene, I can't remember. I know I marked it down somewhere in all of these bookmarks, but I can't find it right now. But the scene where basically he was just down and kind of saying, like, what's the point of life? What's the point of doing this? Why are we even here? Why bother? And like, I know that feeling all too well. I've said those things all too often. And so, that's kind of why, like, I gave that warning when I saw him having these conversations and having this like hopelessness, depression. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's the one, because in the beginning, in her content warning, the author said that one character had suicidal ideations and would be hospitalized later on. And so when Caesar started saying these things, that's when it clicked to me, like, he's going to be the one to attempt. So I thought she did a really great job with that, with depicting it. And I am glad that we got to see him get help, and that even though, like, obviously he's not 100% better by the end of this, he's still going to have his struggles. And, that was one thing we kind of see at the end, where he finally opens up and talks to Yami about struggling with his relationship with Jamal, and how he felt about that. And like, having that, like you were saying, hearing the priest's words and them coming to two different points, and for him, it just caused him to want to suppress even more that part of him. And so kind of seeing where his character arc ends at the end, where he's starting to like, you know, reach out and ask for help. And like, even though he still has these thoughts he's struggling with, he's making the attempt to get help. So I thought that was a really important and good part that I'm glad she added to the end.
Yeah.
And Heather said, wow, I didn't guess Caesar at all, but it's important to show just how it can appear out of left field because Yami had no idea. And she also said she had to run to her next shift. But yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, it is important that it could be anyone, you know, like mental health issues affect everyone. And I think that's an excellent point that Heather made, that it could be the person you love most and you would have no idea, you know, and I think that's
Zuko. He's like, you've been here for an hour. Now love me.
I know. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about, but I unfortunately have to wrap up pretty quickly. So, but I want to hear any other final thoughts that anybody.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much that we didn't get to talk about. I feel like, yeah, I'll probably like talk a little more in the forums.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, because like and this is great, and there's like more kind of quotes and things, so I'll probably make a note to pop into the forums just to discuss stuff, but yeah, I know Teresa was able to hop in at the end. She really enjoyed the book, having some technical issues, but glad that we got to see your lovely face. Yay.
And I just want to say too, like, Vanessa, thank you for being so open and honest during this conversation, because I know that may not have been easy, but I appreciate you sharing everything that you shared today. And I'm so thankful that we get to continue to learn and grow together, and, you know, with friendship. Like, I'm so glad we're friends. So thank you for, you know, being as open as you were today.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah.
And so on that note, if you guys have any more comments and things, you can either drop them in the live stream comments afterwards or in the forums on the Goodreads group, because I will be in there for sure.
Yeah.
And then our celebration of, it's actually Disability Pride Month for July. So we are reading An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. Which seems like it's going to be pretty dark.
Yeah, I think so.
I haven't started it yet because I'm scared.
I'm really nervous because one of the trigger warnings is child abuse, right? Yeah, so I'm nervous. And if anybody's further ahead, please pop in and let me know. But I've read something by Rivers Solomon before, and I read online their pronouns are they, them. So they wrote, I think it's called The Deep or Into the Deep with David Diggs, who is the original Lafayette slash what's his face in Hamilton, like the original cast.
Wow.
The original Lafayette, but also the one that he plays in the second half that's like always going against everyone. Give it up, right? But yeah, I'll have to get there. But so they kind of like wrote it together. David's in like a band and stuff, and like they interacted a lot to read that, and that was very interesting. That was about how the people who would jump overboard on slave ships coming across the oceans would end up turning into like the mermaids in that part of the culture. So I've really enjoyed that, but I think it's going to be a hard one probably. So I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And I probably will read actually like everything that we had on the poll, all of the book options, because I wanted to read them. So they're all going to make it on my soon to be read list.
Sometime in the near future, yeah.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Heather, for joining in the comments, as well as Teresa. Appreciate you all, and we will see you in a week, right? Is it in a week? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We will see you in 2 weeks for the 2-year anniversary party. So we hope to see you then. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.